The player, he had a choice. So he just finished Winter's Daughter. He barely made 3rd level coming back after doing a bunch of things out in the world. So he gets back to Prigwort, and he goes visits the Church of St. Waylain to Mother Smuck, who's the curate there, and he reports in, and she's got another quest waiting for him. So today, in one of my groups that I'm running for Dolmenwood, we have a player that's playing a cleric. He survived through 1st level without any spells, because in Old School Essentials and Dolmenwood, clerics do not have 1st level spells. And I always tell my players when they first start the game, when they start learning how to play, that the differences are a little bit, that the difference between Old School Essentials and the Dolmenwood game, which is another set of rules based on Old School Essentials, is a little bit different from the box set D&D or AD&D, especially the classes. Something about that though. No matter what game you play, whether it's box set, expert, basic, advanced D&D, 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or any other game out there like Pathfinder or WotC games, there's a set of rules that you can play the game with. But the campaign world has a lot to do with that, because campaign worlds have their own set of rules, but more specifically, their own lore, their own gods, and their own character classes. So Dolmenwood is no different. Dolmenwood has clerics, which I consider more like a paladin, because they have another class called the friar, which I consider the cleric, based on box set and AD&D. The cleric in Dolmenwood, they don't get spells at 1st level, but they do get cleric spells starting at 2nd level. They can use bladed weapons, full set of armor. They pretty much a little bit of a tank. They don't fight as well as a fighter, but they don't quite have as many hit points as a fighter, but they do get all the weapons and the armor, and they do end up getting spells. They can turn undead, and they can detect evil as well. Or unholy objects, I believe that's what it is. But the friar, a little bit different. To me, it's more like the cleric of old. The friar at 1st level gets cleric spells. That means you can get the heal spell. But they can't wear armor, and they have a limited selection of weapons. And they have some special abilities like Armor of Faith that gives them a little bit more protection when not wearing armor. They're generally wearing monk robes with a staff or something. And they can turn undead. And their character class personality is more of the wandering friar, the wandering cleric, the traveler that goes out, which is the one true God. In this campaign, you have the one true God, and then they have 100 saints underneath him that you can pray to. And each saint has their own shrine out in the world that you can go visit. Some of them have been destroyed or condemned or in ruins, and that's another source of adventure for the players to consecrate and restore them. But when it comes, the friar and the cleric are both have those roles defined to them to go out and do this sort of thing and to support the church. So with that said, in this campaign world, the cleric does have 3 orders to choose from when you reach his 3rd level. D&D had a huge impact on my life. I started playing in grade school after Star Wars came out in 1977, where I started a gaming club that led to D&D. At the time, I would be found in a classroom, keeping my head low, buried in a fantasy book. The D&D Blue Box set changed and consumed my life. Quickly after that, I bought the AD&D Player's Handbook by Gary Gygax, which had a massive influence on me. I highly recommend these books to read. Rise of the Dungeon Master, Gary Gygax and the Creation of D&D by David Kushner and Corinne Sadmi. This graphic novel is a quick read, and it is a brief glimpse into the life of Gary Gygax, the creation of D&D, the controversy, and the effects that the game had on pulp culture and many lives that it touched. The next book is Empire of Imagination, Gary Gygax and the Birth of Dungeons & Dragons by Michael Whitwer. I found that this biography is a series of fictional vignettes about events in Gary Gygax's life, loosely connected by nods at context, which is more of a inspired by true events story than an actual biography. And the last one is Of Dice and Men, the story of Dungeons & Dragons and the people who play it by David Ewalt. This was a fun read about the history of Dungeons & Dragons. The author injects that some scenes from one of his own D&D campaign, which I liked, but sometimes it strayed a little bit too far from the subject and covered a lot other role-playing games. I was really happy to identify with a lot of the scenes in this book, and not just from playing the game. You can find my affiliate links down below. In this video, I'm going to review the cleric's choices of what he can choose from, which orders he can join at 3rd level. And to do that, you need to refer to the Dolmenwood campaign guide. So I have that up on the screen here, and we'll go ahead and scroll down through the campaign book and take a look at the Puritan Church is a dominant religion of the mortal folk of Dolmenwood in modern times. This campaign book does say that you could plop this campaign into any other existing campaign, like the World of Greyhawk, into a small 100 square mile area, which is basically a fey area. If I was to put this in the Greyhawk, I'd probably put it in just west of Selene, south of the Gnarly Forest, maybe Welkwood, because that's a fairy area. There's a lot of choices in Greyhawk to choose from, but that's probably what I'll do, since my campaigns are generally around Verberbach because the Temple of Elemental Evil. And also, there's a thing that they mentioned is, if it's possible, optionally, a dungeon master could say that the one true god could be one of the gods of Greyhawk or the campaign that you're running. And then my understanding is, if, let's say, the nearby barony or country or empire expanded into this wood, a baron did, and he created a barony and started dominating the area, and then it'd be a barony of Dolmenwood, of Brackenwald, that the god that they brought with them from the previous country could be like Pelor or something. But the church, in its way of integrating the locals, like the Bregel goat-headed people and other denizens of Dolmenwood, they could just teach them in their churches and shrines that he's just called the one true God. Some sort of politics going on there. And then, of course, you got the saints, where basically they're heroes of that god that died in battle or did great deeds in Dolmenwood, because Brackenwald has been in Dolmenwood for hundreds of years, centuries. So there's quite a bit of time have passed for something like this to transpire. That's just one optional thing you could do. I'm not really doing that in my campaign, even though I could. Because I'm just kind of looking at this campaign as almost of a mini campaign for me. We're just running it for fun, and it's interesting. And we're only like at 3rd level by now, so there's not a lot expanded beyond that at this point. I'm just sticking to the modules. But anyway, you have the one true God, and those saints that you follow. And so the church is divided into 3 orders. There's the bishop of the church, which is located at Castle Brackenwald. It says in here that the clerical orders, the church's militaristic arm takes form of 3 holy orders of warrior priests that venture into the dangerous realms to vanquish enemies of the church. So these 3 orders aren't just the entire church, it's just the military arm of it. So there's the Order of St Faxis. They're the order of seekers based on the seminary of 100 martyrs in Castle Brackenwald, which is the capital city of the barony of Brackenwald, which is the human side. Clerics of St Faxis follow an edict to root out practitioners of dark magic and those who truck with devils or deal in necromancy. In my campaign, that would be the Druin and the witches. And they have their own back lore, and they are prolific within the Dolmenwood area. So that's something that's very concrete and something to grab hold of and play with in the game, and give something for the player, give something to offer to the player for him what to do in this world. Then there's the Order of St Sedge, the defenders of the church, clerics who protect the land of the church from its invaders, based in the Swinny Tower next to Prigwort. Prigwort's one of those small villages, like on the Borderlands. Kind of like the Keep on the Borderlands, the B2 module. It's on the edge of this barony, edge of this realm. And beyond that is the wilds and a lot of adventure out there. Something like that, because across the river is a bunch of bad guys. They're marshaling their armies, they're raiding constantly, and they got to be put a stop to, and the players have a lot on their hands to deal with when it comes to that. So if they join the Order of St. Sedge, their mandate is to protect the barony of Brackenwald. Then you got the Order of St. Cygnus. They're the Order of Lich Wards. That's what they call them. They're like priest's name for... It's a priest name for... It's a Lich Ward is a priest name. Those who watch over the dead and hunt revenant corpses and spirits which rise from the grave as undead. They're based in the Silent Tower in High Hankel, which is an area in Dolmenwood, a human-controlled area. So the player reaching 3rd level gets to choose one of these. That list on the right is all the saints available. The ones in asterisks are the ones that are keyed into the campaign book, and located shrines are on the map. So you can actually create adventures out of that. And there are some modules based on some of those too that I use. Okay, then you get the rest of the church. You got the priests. They're the mainstream of the church, from lowly curates to village priest to the archbishop, who determined the course of the church across all the lands where it has dominion. And then you got monastics. They're ascetics who live cloistered lives of prayer, fasting, and contemplation. In the present day, there's but a single monastery within Dolmenwood. It's called the Refuge of St. Key. Hey, I just keyed that. I wrote an article for that location because my players went there and spent the night. So when my players go somewhere, I don't tend to wing it. I tend to create articles for myself for my game. So they're basically my Dungeon Master notes. And I use that at the table. And it springboards my role-playing to wing it at that point. I need a baseline to role-play from. And I realized that the campaign book is supposed to be for that. That's why the layout is so wonderful and so terse, to be able to springboard and role-play with that information. But I need more role-playing. I need more dialogue base to go from. And then I can role-play from that. I think it adds more depth to the game when I do that. So I actually created an article for that location, which is just southeast of Prigwort. And then you have friars. So friars is a cleric class. It's a priest class. They're wandering ascetics who have vowed to leave the austere life of the cloister and take a homeless existence on the road. Friars are tasked with bringing the good word of the Puritan church to the poor, downtrodden, and disease-ridden on the borderlands at the edge of civilization, like Dolmenwood. Friars maintain only a loose affiliation with the church, being granted fiat to carry out God's will as they see fit. The thing about the God thing, this is supposed to be a fantasy role-playing game, and I don't use crucifixes in my game. I use holy symbols. So I kind of keep the fantasy theme in check with that, where it's more vague and I don't really refer to real word Catholicism. I just don't do that. So that's just how I run the game, because I want to keep this game a fun fantasy game. All right, so that the player, he had a choice. So he just finished Winter's Daughter. He barely made 3rd level coming back after doing a bunch of things out in the world. So he gets back to Prigwort, and he goes visits the Church of St. Waylain to Mother Smuck, who's the curate there. And he reports in, and she's got another quest waiting for him. But then he tells me, well, I want to choose an order. And I want to choose the Order of St Faxis. So here we got Cygnus. There we go. Oops, sorry. Cygnus, and I missed Sedge. There we go. So he chose the Order of St Faxis. Let's see if I can't highlight that. And bonus-wise, they all get certain benefits and bonuses by joining them. I'm not too concerned about that. The players, they care, but as a DM, I don't really care. But he chose it for his own reasons. I care more about the lore. So I was looking at Prigwort and all the nearby locations for St. Faxis. You can do a Control F in the PDF of the Dolmenwood guide to look for things like that, because there's a lot of lore in those guides. It's easy to miss. And so I'll do a lot of Control F searching in those guides for any kind of rumor or NPC or item, anything that will help me figure out the lore to make sense of what the player wants to do. So I was thinking, wow, if he's going to join the Order of St. Faxis as a DM, I don't really want to roleplay him going to Castle Brackenwald. That'd take forever. And, then you get the rest of the players to think about. And what I really want to do is get him to the dungeon. That's my ultimate goal. Because once, as a dungeon master, to be honest, once you're in the dungeon, it's easy going from there. It's so easy to run the game. There's not a lot of prep for it. You just run it and have fun. And they're in there for a long time. It's when they get back to town and start talking to other NPCs that there's a lot of role-playing going on. It's pretty heavy. And I feel like I need to give the campaign some justice by role-playing them well and providing lore and content through those conversations with those NPCs. Because if they go talk to a elevated council member or Droz, Musselmeyer, or Mother Smuck, or anybody at one of the shops nearby, they got things to say. They even have quests to give the players. And so I make sure I develop that really well for the player to interact with them, to bring the campaign to life. So I was thinking about this. I go, wow, okay, how am I going to handle that? Then I just realized, wait a minute, there's a rumor that the Order of St Faxis is coming to Prigwort to stomp out the witches and stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, they're there visiting. And so I had, I created an article to where, let's go ahead and take a look at my article right now. Okay, hello down here. So this article is called Cleric Recruitment to the Order of St Faxis. I create this as a DM note to myself to help roleplay this. So it's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot, not just dialogue, but it's description, narration. Because just like any kind of flavor text, I like to write description of the places they go to, the buildings they walk into, and the scenes they find. So it helps me springboard from there after kind of paraphrasing this. So what I'll say from this article here, that he finds himself in the village of Prigwort. Skip all that part because we know he's already there. The village is bustling about. Porters of various brewmasters are wheeling kegs of beer and bundles of hops towards the church. Their face a blend of reverence and routine. As you step through the grand entrance, the light dims, replaced by a soft hue of the stained glass that dance above. The long, narrow nave, with its gleaming white marble pillars, seems to stretch endlessly, leading your gaze towards the majestic altar. There, standing tall and proud, is an enormous bronze statue of Saint Wayland, bearing 7 arms, each wielding an axe, a symbol revered by the executioners and the merciful lords alike. So I make sure I said that to, I can't highlight that. I make sure I mention that because this is my way of adding more lore to the campaign and giving it to the players. Versus just reading lines from the actual campaign guide, I like to add it to my descriptions, my narrative, and my dialogue. So you heard that Saint Wayland of the Sack is venerated. Oh, sorry. Let's continue. The soft hum of whispered prayers fills the air as the pious locals and travelers alike occupy the pews. Every now and then the shuffle of feet echo as the brewers wield their offerings to the altar. Here, though, you are on a mission of great import. Bishop Sanguine has issued an edict, a call to arms against the Druid and the witches, and those accused of desecrating sacred shrines for a century. Thy hearts beat with a mix of trepidation and resolve, knowing the weight of the task is at hand. I gave this quest to the cleric at first level when he first made his character, that the bishop has this edict out, and that's one of the reasons why he came to Prigwort in the first place. I like to give players reasons for being there. So he treads softly across the stone floors. His gaze falls upon Sanctus Primus, the vainglorious commander of the Order of St Faxis. His presence is commanding, his demeanor as cold and stern as the stone statues of the church's nave. Your Excellency. And he bows to the commander, and next to him is Mother Smuck. Her ever-smiling face is framed by her white hair, contrasting strikingly with a single orange goat-like eye, intricate white robes that shimmer in the dim light, adorned with golden threads and glass beads. Truthfully, I don't really read all that to the player because he's already met Mother Smuck and he's already been to the church several times since we started playing the campaign. So I'll paraphrase a lot of that because he already knows a lot of this description. But now we're going to get to the meat of it. This is the reason why I wrote this article, the dialogue. So, Sanctus Primus speaketh, his voice echoing slightly in the vast expanse of this church. Acolyte Ingold, we wouldst have joined us in the sacristy to discuss matters of import to the church. So the player says, okay, I'll do that. He's a little nervous. Then Mother Smuck, her voice is soft, but she carries this undeniable authority. Ingold, the church faces challenges, both within and beyond the walls of Dolmenwood. Thy role in these times is crucial, and we must discuss the path that lies ahead. Sanctus Primus, his teeth grinding in his habitual manner, turns his sharp gaze upon the acolyte. Acolyte Ingold, I have heard of thy deeds. His voice is sneering echo in the vast chamber. Thou hast cleansed the withling stones of Druin, and blessed the chapel of St. Sedge within the tomb of Sir Chide. Thou hast brought peace to Sir Chide and his beloved. Impressive indeed. His words are laced with condescension and does carry a weight of approval. Mother Smuck nods in agreement, her eyes observing him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. I request thy service to the Order of St Faxis. His voice is ringing with his cold zeal. Thy skills and devotion have made thy worthy addition to our holy crusade. So at that point, the player is even more excited because this is what he wanted, right? He wanted to join that Order of St Faxis. So knowing what path is ahead of him, the dangers, and he follows them to the private rooms of the priest of Mother Smuck. Then finally, Sanctus will begin his spiel. So he's going to give him a quest, and he's going to invite him to join the Order, then give him a quest. Listen well, acolyte. His voice is a cold whisper and that cuts through the hush of the chamber. I suppose I should actually sound that way, right? Listen, acolyte. Thy first mission is to seek and apprehend Marjoram Gryver, a fugitive of grave importance, charged with treason and theft by the Emperor and the Order of Imperial Prismists. This task is grave, and failure is not an option. So the Imperial Prismists and the Emperor are not part of the Dolmenwood lore per se. It hasn't been written, but I got that from the actual Incandescent Grottos module, which was written before the campaign. I felt that, the barony in its history came from there, from the south. They made their way north to settle this area of Dolmenwood. And so I think the barony of Brackenwald is beholden to the Emperor. And they each have their own magic school, their own magic order. And I explained that here a little bit. But I believe that they do have this loose association, this relationship between the two. But they don't actually work for each other. So when the Emperor wants something and the Order of Prismists wants something, it's very important. They don't ignore it. And I have to explain that to the players, but they don't really know much about that stuff, especially if there's a magician in the group. Then you would know much more about this lore. So let's continue. The first mission is to seek and apprehend Marjoram Gryver. Okay. Marjoram was once a respected member of the Imperial Prismists. She hath turned rogue, her action sending ripples through our town and the echelons of power. Her husband, Mary Ban Gryver, unearthed a shocking truth about the Emperor. A facade, an illusion, orchestrated by the Prismists themselves. Before he could reveal this truth, he was imprisoned within a prism of life trapping. Driven by love and thirst for truth, Marjoram stole this prism and fled. She is believed to be hiding in the magical forest, possibly within the crystal grottos. Be wary, for she is no ordinary fugitive. She is armed with powerful magic and desperation born of love and betrayal. So he continues. So this is a long spiel here because he has to give him the quest, right? The Ducal Guard, and especially Captain Boggle, are eager to apprehend her, not just for the theft, but for the secrets she holds. His voice is laced with urgency. Thou must be cautious, for Marjoram Gryver is a master of illusions and Prismist of formidable skill. Okay, so at this point, the commander or the leader of the order is impressed with his deeds so far, and that's why he requested that the acolyte Ingold, would join the Order of St Faxis. And of course, he probably was filled in on the details by Mother Smuck before he arrived. So now he's going to give him this quest to go after her, this Marjoram character, which I do have a wanted poster at the local taverns for the rest of the players to see. and they can actually ask for they can actually question other people in town of rumors about the subject and find out even more information or their opinion of it. Okay, so now he's telling them about the Ducal Guard wants Marjoram. But it's interesting because Captain Boggle of the Ducal Guard in Castle Brackenwald wants her and offering the reward. But it's the Emperor that wants her, apprehended with the Imperial Prismists returned to them, dead or alive. So it's a matter of now the leader of St. Faxis wants to get hold of her and actually apprehend her in the name of the Emperor and send it to them, send it to the Emperor, which is really interesting because you have all these different factions wanting her. So the players are going to have a little bit of a dilemma what to do about it, who to turn them over to. Because I have Mosselmeyer Droz, which is a whole nother scene where he requests her capture as well to other players in the party. So it's dependent upon who wants to turn her in and where. It could cause some problems. Okay, so let's keep going here. Then he warns the player that, remember, the truth is often layered and not everything as it seems. This mission is of utmost importance to our order. Thou art acting in the name of the Order of St Faxis, and thou must bring the fugitive to justice before the Imperial Guard or Captain Boggle finds her. It is of great opportunity for our order. So there you go. That's proof right there that he wants to apprehend her and not the other people. So Sanctus Primus steps closer. His gaze is piercing. Trust thy wits as much as thy faith in the one true God. Bring Marjoram Griver to justice and uphold the honor and duty of the Order of St. Faxis. And that cemented the deal with the player. So he agreed immediately. I shall not fail you, your excellency. And then he nodded. Sanctus Primus gave him a nod, and his figure fades into the shadows where he strides away. Well, or he could have him say, Go forth, Acolyte Ingold, let thy actions reflect the glory of St. Faxis and righteousness of our cause. So there's a lot of ways to end that scene, and then he walks off. Then I used ChatGPT to create an emblem for the Order of St. Faxis, which I thought turned out pretty good. Even though the two outer daggers should probably be inverted, but I couldn't get that done. But I still think it looks pretty good. Okay, that ends the video of the article I wrote for that scene in my campaign. Like I said before, these are my Dungeon Master notes, and I like to write description, dialogue, and narration as preparation for my scenes to help flush the world out and make sure I get the data, the information, lore from the campaign to the players as best way possible. And then I paraphrase that stuff and I ad lib as I go along as the players ask questions and interact with the scene. This helps me a lot. So that's how I do it, and you can use these notes in your campaign if you want. I upload these articles on my Patreon, 3 Orcs Patreon, and you can download these articles on my Patreon. Some are free, some you have to be a member of my Patreon to get them. And also my artwork and maps I've created too. There's over 200 articles I've written on Patreon so far. So it's a wealth of information there, articles there, and artwork for the World of Greyhawk and the Dolmenwood campaign. So what do you think? Would you have the players actually all travel to Castle Brackenwald to talk to Primus himself and request to be admitted into the Order? Or do you hand-wave this stuff and say, okay, you are now of the Order, you're 3rd level now, let's get to the dungeon? Or do you prefer the way I've done it, which is kind of like which is more of a role-playing narrative way to get him to 3rd level and join the Order without having to travel all the way to Castle Brackenwald? If you like what you've seen and you want to support me further to create more articles, please join my Patreon and you can get access to all my articles and artwork there. And also I give away free prizes to members that have been there for a while. You know, I have all these, I got coffee cups that I have with my artwork on it. And I got little stickers here of, that's my orc there, little sayings, little quotes at the bottom there. It was just a lot of fun. And then of course I got my artwork cards that get signed. And I have a ton of t-shirts that I've made, which is a lot of fun and different, so that way you'll be the only one at the table with one. Thank you for watching, and may all your adventures and campaigns be fun for your players, and make many memories in the World of Greyhawk or Dolmenwood, or any other campaign I support in the future.
Did you enjoy video? Consider tossing support on my Patreon. It's best way to support orcs. If you would like to see more content, subscribe and post comments below. It better not be bad.